So I'm Jodi Serota. I'm from New York City in Manhattan. And my work is that I'm a channel, a metaphysical educator, I'm a professional artist, and I'm a vibrational sound healer and light language healer. And my work is all about consciousness raising and personal growth, transformation, and creativity. And a lot of the work that I do is to help people to find the gateway or bring them into the gateway to their multidimensional heart. So I also work with bringing through readings for the Akashic records. And also through that, I work with the sound and the light languages. The light languages are combination of energies from the earth plane before karmic patterning began, before humans even inhabited the earth, so that you can connect to that point in time before karma in relation to the star systems, the planets, and beyond the beyond, to remember yourself as being multidimensional. And just gonna take a drink of water. And through the process of working with the light language, it helps to also awaken your codes of consciousness, your original codes of consciousness, meaning before we even went through any kind of karmic patterning. And the sounds that come through me tend to work with healing and also transmuting karmic miasms in the field, knots of energy in the field from all different experiences through all time, space, and dimensions. They also help to helps basically to transmute karma, and so that people can finally not identify so much with the energetic charges from karmic patterning, so that they can move through that and without those sort of knots of energy to come back to the original intention of who we are in our full consciousness and our connection to everything that exists, and remember who we already are.
Beautiful. Wonderful. And so this book kind of feeds right into the work that you're doing, because the name of it is The Science of Consciousness, The Cycles of Time. And so I'd kind of like to begin with you asking, what your understanding of consciousness is. Universal consciousness, primordial consciousness, our star family and human consciousness. Is there a difference? Do you see them as one? How do you, what are your viewpoints on all of that?
Well, I see everything as one. Everything is oneness. I think that's what we're really trying to remember and to embody in this experience in physical form. I don't feel like anything is separate from anything. I mean, we can separate them in terms of understanding what they are kind of individually and how they contribute to the whole. So, but I believe that everything is the same. Everything is of one. And the focus, what I always focus on, it would be everything is love. And love is an all-inclusive frequency. It's actually a frequency. And if it's not that frequency, then it's not that energy of all-inclusiveness. So, and if it has any kind of conditions around it, it's not that frequency. So from that point, I think of all of consciousness basically is the frequency of love. And we're here to remember that that's what we are, and that we're all interconnected and that we're not separated. And in terms of like a primordial consciousness, I would say that's more connected to, feels like kind of ancient, but it feels more like the earth, the consciousness of the earth in itself, in this experience of physicality. And everything starting as little atoms and molecules and expanding and growing and developing through time and space. That, but I think it's all connected. In order for us to be here, I believe that we've all chosen to be here from a higher level of consciousness, not coming from the earth, coming from all of higher consciousness of love, all-inclusive energy. And that we've come here at many different times, and there's a particular, we'll talk probably more about what's going on now, but coming in at different points, particular souls coming in to be part of this experience of still remembering who we are in truth as God, Goddess, all-inclusive, love, energy, universal, whatever you want to call it, that energy, wherever we are, that when we come into a physical form, we're here for a particular purpose to work through these kind of our bodies as sort of an instrument or a conduit to bring forth that higher consciousness into this experience. And the physical energy is, it's said to be of a lower vibration just because it's a different placement in time and space. But we're here, I believe, to really embody our physical bodies with our spiritual bodies as one in the highest vibration that we can experience. So again, it's a remembering that we are all that already. It's just a perception or an illusion that we're not. I don't know if I'm answering the question. I'm going into other things. I'm not quite sure. And
I'm just interested in your perspective.
Okay. And let's see, the star family consciousness. It's interesting because people always say, you know, where am I from? On what star? You know, that kind of thing. I don't believe we're from any particular anywhere. I just think we've spent a lot of time in certain areas, and so we have for particular purposes. We learn from things. We contribute in different experiences through all time, space, and dimensions. We bring with us some of that information or all of that, what we can remember. We're here to remember what we already know from the highest levels of those particular placements. And we bring that into this experience. So everything is about all of our experiences, but interrelated and integrated and interconnected as one. And even by saying interconnection, it kind of implies separation. I think we're here to really understand that everything is already there. We're just perceiving it from a different perspective because we're from a human experience, like seeing through our physical bodies. But what's happening what's happening on the planet is so much energy is being infused into the planet at this time to awaken us to remember. It's like shaking us up with the vibration, the higher vibration. And in that, as we awaken to that higher vibration of remembering that as our souls, we're still having to kind of lift our physical vibration up to meet the higher vibration of our souls so that they can work together. It's like a marriage where it's a contract between the two, your soul and or your divine presence, I'll call it, and also your physical body. So the more we can align that, the more we can remember and embody the fullness and have the experience on a fuller level. So many people that I work with, it's like as if they have one foot in the physical and one foot in the etheric, because they're afraid on some level that if they step in completely, they'll lose their connection out to the higher levels and also the original understanding of self. And also, so they have one foot out and one foot in, but they're not really getting the fullness of either side of it because you're like half in and half out. It's like standing in the doorway of your own home, have one foot out and one foot in. You don't really get to move and you don't get to experience anything except for that moment of trying to hold it together without being anywhere, So I believe that all of when we're coming into this soul and this consciousness, it's bringing it all together and integrating everything as one, but knowing that that's already there. We're just trying to recall that that's already there as one. And so the star family energy, I work a lot with the energy from the star system Sirius. I've worked with Arcturus, a little bit of Andromeda, some of Lyra, but mostly Sirius and Arcturus. And The energies with Sirius has been more of it, but Sirius has been more about, for me, the mastery of wisdom. So it's remembering how much wisdom we really carry within our consciousness. It's already there. It's like we're time capsules of consciousness that are time released. And at this point in time, it's like we're time released and the time is now. It's to remember who we already are and what we're here for and why we've chosen to be part of this experience on the planet during this time of ascension, a shift in consciousness to remember and come back to the truth of love.
Now, in working with all these different, I'm going to call them cultures, in working with all these different cultures, have they given you any information about the ascension, or are they bringing forward any information about timelines or what we can expect?
In terms of ascension process?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I some of it I get from the energies of these star energies. I also work with the angels and archangels and the ascended masters and hierarchies of light and love and the earth, I get all different energies. And so planets, stars as well. So yeah, this time period of the ascension process, it's a 26,000 year cycle. And from what I understand, we've had this, I thought it was 3 times before, it might be 4, I'm not sure. But we never really made it. We never got through it. We were given opportunities to be here on the planet, to come in to be incarnate here, to be able to be part of this shift and transition of coming back to this. I look at it as a grand initiation. It's like people talk about it as a word, as a reset. It's a shift in our consciousness, a change, and we're coming into the Aquarian age, which is sort of like a new renaissance, a rebirth. But when people talk about the new earth, coming back to something that I feel it's almost like coming back to something that's already there. But so I believe that this is a really strong time of change, and it's a time where it is like a grand initiation. In the past, all the masters of the past, at least on the earth plane, had to go through major shifts in their consciousness by going through initiations. And basically, it's like that there's a movie called The Right Stuff with the astronauts. They had to go through knowing that they had the right stuff to even go into space to be able to be doing this job. So we've come here to have to go through initiations, which are not always the most comfortable, but it's to remember that if we weren't here to go through these initiations, we wouldn't even have the opportunity to go through them, because if we didn't have the capability of getting through it. So it's to remember that we have all this wisdom. We're also part of everything that exists. We already knew we were coming. We knew we chose to come here, I believe. We chose to, when we sat with our councils of light, some people call them councils of elders, but it's like a board of your company, and they're there to help us and support us and kind of go over before we get here what we're going to choose, even on each individual personal level, to move through a lot of the karmic patterning, energetic charges that our lives are living through, these lenses that are just based on perceptions and beliefs, a lot of it based on trauma and survival. So this time period is really about coming into moving from survival to living fully and thriving, and also moving through illusion to truth, which we're also coming into into the Aquarian age, which is also about coming into the truth and really understanding justice for all and that kind of thing. But so in terms of this grand initiation, it's not the easiest thing to go through personally, but also we're going through it collectively. And we also have the memory of having not gotten through it. We haven't made it through any of those times yet. We've always either blown ourselves up with all sorts of things related to, it could be technology, science, intuition, combination of people using other people for their gifts and for the inappropriate reasons. crystal energies, which are very powerful, but they may not have known how to use this properly, or and used it, where everything just blew up. So you'll find like pyramids and all different parts, similar pyramids and structures all over the world, because everything blew up and they ended up in different areas, but they're all part of the same thing. And those are actually activating people when they go to those places or live there, or the spaces themselves, to awaken us to remember. Everything is completely about, we're here to remember who we already are, and that we have these high capabilities like the masters of the past to be able to really accomplish greater feats in basically in coming back to the interconnectedness of everything, and not just with people to people, humans to humans, but all consciousness on the earth. There's animals, there's insects, there's all these different species, but also, and how nature interacts and everything interweaves, and it's all in sync. There's an in syncness to everything, and everything, even the timing of things. And but we push to try to make things happen as if we're separate from the higher connection, to as humans, to keep trying to make things happen, but that's out of survival. So it also has to do with the masculine and feminine energies within us. We have to bring that back. I do a lot of that work as well, bringing that back in people to remember to just embody more of the masculine and feminine, because if they're truly the soulmates of our own being, the mates of the same soul. They do two different jobs. They don't compete with each other. And when they come together, they pick up where the other leaves off, like a relationship with a partnership. And in that internal relationship, when it's brought together, it takes you out of survival. You don't have to overcompensate for some part of your consciousness that's not available to yourself in your perception. It's always an illusion anyway, but it's how it works. So all these things are about reconnecting, restructuring, redefining, remembering everything that's already there. And so and the feminine is more the part that can just be, the part that can just be, to feel, to know. Doesn't have to be doing anything. That's not part of her consciousness. And it's also the creative energy or creation energy, the receiving and being received. The masculine's more the intellectual kind of, we have this all within all of us have this within all of ourselves. And the masculine's more the logical, practical, intellectual, the one that's the doer, that puts it into motion and gives. So she feels to know, to give that direction. This is what I want. This is how I want to go about doing it. Here, masculine energy, kind of take it out, make it happen, bring it back in a tangible way. And it's like a complete circle for the heartfelt connection to begin with. So they work together. When you have that, you also have better collaborative energies and relationships in your life. So these are all just pieces and parts of what we're coming together to remember our wholeness and our oneness within ourselves.
So one of the notes that I just made that I wanted to ask you about was, I know on the 21st with the equinox, we also have a new, the great concordance that is happening. Do you feel like more of that feminine energy is coming in, or that's the point of anchoring along with bringing in other dimensional energies? Because a lot of people think, and I think too, that 2012 people say, oh, there was nothing that happened, but I feel that's when that fourth dimensional energy came in, and people have been working out during this time frame, trying to release the tethers from the third dimension so they can move more fully into the fifth. And I think that during the time on the 21st that we're going to be more fully moving into that energy of fifth dimensional energy. Do you feel like that a lot of that has to do with the divine feminine?
Yeah, because the feminine is also the receptive energy. You have to create sort of the space, or the bowl, or whatever, the space for that masculine energy to kind of penetrate and go through and make something happen. So they have to be in sync in order for us all to move forward as one, individually as one, as well as collectively as one. So, and that particular energy, we're starting to move into the Aquarian age from the Piscean age. And the Piscean age, just a small amount of talking about this in terms of what that was about. It seemed more to me more about, because Pisces has a lot of emotion, and a lot of the Piscean energy was about survival and also illusion, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune is very spiritual and that, but it also, you can get caught in the illusion, and it's like going from illusion to truth. So we've been a lot of illusion, and and the truth is, all these people say the truth will set you free. We're coming into that at this point in time, this year specifically. It's been even more so, but it's everything in all of history, of all of the Earth's history and humanity. There's so many things of polarities. We're moving from that polarity kind of energy. I tend to think the fourth dimension, not everyone agrees, but the fourth dimension is more about polarities. It's about the two sides of something. And if you're constantly playing the game on one side or the other, it just keeps going. There's no way to sort of stop it unless you stop playing the game. And so, but one of the things that I would ask my guides, so how do we get off of these polarities? And they said that you have to accept and recognize and accept both sides of the pattern in order to get wholeness. And so if you accept, instead of sticking to one side where somebody else will stick to the other side, the only way to get off the pattern of like a seesaw, one side or the other, is either to walk away from the game or to just accept both sides of the pattern and send love, or just the idea of acceptance and recognition for both sides of the pattern, so that you get the wholeness of the pattern, so the whole pattern can lift to the next dimension. Otherwise, you're still kind of half in one dimension and half in another. And we need to bridge that. There's got to be a bridge, which is what I think we're coming into now. The true bridge that really moves us from one dimension into the next dimension. And then all the rest they're all there, and we're all part of all of them. But from a kind of an intellectual perspective, kind of helps to kind of feel it that way or know it that way. So, but I feel like this is a really important time on the planet, and I feel like we have another opportunity in this ascension time, because again, we're back in a certain alignment with the stargates for energies, to really high frequency energies, to assist us from the higher levels, to really infuse us with transmissions of energy, activations, awakening. I do a lot of that with my work with the sounds, activations and initiations and things of that nature, to help us to really get clearer, to accept all and not have any kind of negation about any of it. Just accept it all as is, and send love to all of it, because that is an inclusive energy that brings it all together, so that there's a wholeness and a oneness. And in this, what you're asking about, to bring that to the next level. The feminine, though, both feminine and masculine, just as important. It's interesting, on the outer levels, we're seeing the reflection from inside of what we're dealing with, how all the things that have not been in sync in terms of the value being given to men and women, masculine and feminine, or the masculine and feminine within all beings. And so many things are happening in relation to every area of masculine and feminine, and also gender, and just allowing people to just be who they are, and accepting and loving people, and forgiveness, acceptance, and recognition are the things that when Christ comes through at times for healing. And that's the things that he'll say are the key to actual healing: to forgive yourself and others, ask them to forgive themselves and you. But I do it on a spiritual level, or you can if you can do it in person. But so forgiveness, acceptance of everything, and then the recognition of what can you learn from this? What can we take responsibility about to be able to learn and go beyond this, so we can finally move beyond these things that keep us in a perception of limitation, those little miasms, those little knots that keep us held in the knot, but don't let us unravel it and just finally let it go and move on, and be part of everything together, and work together in collaboration and love and acceptance.
Now, do you think that this time that's coming up is what people are referring to as the event, or do you think this is something different?
I saw that question and I was like, what is the event? What does that mean? I think the event from my perspective would be like that it's like an event that we're finally having this. It's not that we finally have the opportunity. I think we finally have so much going on that people just want to make change. They wanted to change, and even if we're not all on the same page yet, people are fighting for rights, fighting for, unfortunately, it's fighting, or we'll say expressing more about what they believe in and what they think they believe in, and questioning even if they believe in things, is this really true or not? I think in a way it's uncomfortable, but I feel like the big event is sort of the reset, the initiation, the awakening. It's an awakening. And it's again, it's like a renaissance. It's in the past, the Renaissance was all about change. And it was a change that related to the arts. And in this case, I think it's going to be more about, it's the art and music. Even I work with sound for healing. I mean, we do all these different kinds of things. Visual, audible, kinesthetic energy is how I work. But all of these things, as well as technology. And it's interesting because even with all the expansion of what we've come into technologically, and we're going to be coming much more into that now, coming into this Aquarian, more fully into the Aquarian age, because that's a humanitarian age. It's a time of like moving from the Piscean stuff into finally having this sense of like all inclusiveness of humanity. And what we're going through now is sort of the pulling apart of all the structures. Jupiter and Saturn, I think it is, are in conjunct, right, are coming into conjunction now, where they're supporting each other. Jupiter is all about expansion, and Jupiter is sort of the beneficent planet, beneficent planet that is that gives you kind of, it's almost like a lucky planet. It gives you expansion for good, positive things, but it's all about expansion. And the Saturn energy is all about structure and discipline. But all the structures, it had been prophesied, and it's already happening and happened, that all the structures that are not really working are going to have to really, they're going to start to fall to the sides, whether it's about the dogma of religion that maybe pulls people apart from each other, the sense of even believing in science and the climate changes, and all these things are being questioned, and having to do with humanity, and and people loving each other, and who we really are in relation to other dimensions and other worlds, and so it's bringing up so much stuff, technology, all these things. It's bringing everything up, but it's about, this time period is about being from humanity, coming from humanitarian understanding. The Aquarian energy is also ruled by Uranus. Uranus is the planet that brings really high frequency energy that can sometimes pull the rug out from under you. You feel like you're falling and you're like, oh my God, I have no idea where it's going to happen now. But it actually, and what I've been told and work with, is that energy is from God. It brings that energy, or the universe, it brings that energy through to kind of have you fall, but it places you in a different direction so that you'll see the direction to go in, because it's from the universe. It's not just sort of haphazard. Nothing, I mean, I don't believe anything is haphazard. Everything is for a reason. So, but it's a time for us to really be questioning a lot. And also, not everybody agrees on everything, but I think questioning is important, because it's a way, it's not so much about being skeptical, it's just about trying to understand what is really the truth. And there's so many things about what's going on in this world, and it's also this world right now, everything is happening, this whole ascension time, everything's happening all over the world. It's not just a part of the world. So there's no place for people to kind of go, well, I'll just go take off and go somewhere else so I won't have to deal with this. It's forcing everyone to deal with this simultaneously, so that everyone knows that we're in this together, and there's no way out. And some people are leaving the planet. Some of that, I think, is because terms of dying, because it's kind of going from survival to living while we're going through this pandemic, which has to do with a lot of survival energy. And I think a lot of the people that are leaving are meant to go possibly for a few different reasons. Some of them are leaving collectively to make a big difference so that people can see this is serious. We have to pay attention here. The other part is nobody's immune to any of it. We all have, we all can be part of this in whatever way, shape, or form we've chosen on a higher level. Some people need to leave because they're not going to be able to get through it on a physical level while being here. So it's easier to kind of move to the other side. And some people might help on the other side more from that end. But a lot of times it's also when people leave, it affects the people here who are here to stay, to have to look at certain things that they may not have paid attention to karmically to really help them to clear. And a lot of people are worried because they're going through so many changes right now. Like the energy is, especially as eclipses and everything, are forcing the necessary changes our souls need to make to move forward and go in a directed path with everything else that's going. Because the death part of this, a lot of it is really the death of the old identifications with the energetic charges from the karmic patterning that we've been through in all different time periods. And when you let go of your identification with those energetic charges, when you let go of that, there's a part that feels like you don't know who you are anymore. Because if you let go of everything that you thought you were that keeps you in a perception of limitation, you sort of have nothing else to complain about. But you also, don't, you can feel like you don't know who you are anymore. And a lot of people have said to me, I feel like I'm dying. And I had to keep reminding them that they're here to stay, but they're not here to physically die. It's the death of the identifying of those, those identifications. And if you don't, and we tend to identify with a lot of things outside of ourselves to know who we are. So this is about really turning it inward to really get that connection from what I was talking about before. We're connected to everything. We're never not connected. It just can feel like that in human form by a perception and from, karmic things that we've been through and traumas and issues and in this life and other lives and even other dimensions and time frames. Because in other dimensions also, there's intergalactic wars. For a while I was working years ago with the energies of Orion. There were all these intergalactic wars, and I met some people on this level that had a few things going on with people that I was like, what is this? And they told me we're continuing to work it out on this level in the human form to be able to clear that as well. So my work is all about working multidimensionally, and as yours is, and it's really, but to do that consciously, we're consciously working multidimensionally, and not everybody is doing that consciously, but we're still doing it. So I think it's a time where we have so much opportunity to grow and to expand and to really come back to the truth of who we already are and recognize our gifts and our abilities of things of why we're here to be part of this experience and why our souls chose to be specifically in the bodies we're in, and why we chose to have that body be the representative, in a sense, of who we are and what we're here for with our gifts and what we're here to learn about and evolve through. It's all evolving, evolution. The earth is evolving, we're evolving, other planets and stars are evolving, other dimensions and galaxies that we don't even pay attention to all the time. But so I feel like, I don't know again if I answered the question, but I said a lot.
Astrologically, is there anything that humanity can do for itself to maybe ease this transitional process?
Did you say astrologically? I didn't hear. What
Yeah,
was the first thing?
yeah. Astrologically, I'm wondering if you've noticed if there's anything that humanity can do to kind of help ease this transitional process. Is it indicating or pointing to anything in particular?
Well, I think eclipses, we have a lot of eclipses and these eclipses, eclipses actually, they assist us by um, helping us um, to make change, the necessary changes that our soul really needs to go through personally to be able to get to the next levels. So what I always suggest is to work with that those astrological situations, so that if you can kind of surrender to that, to allow yourself to, but also to just notice. I always tell people, notice the themes. What are the themes coming up? It could be this week or in this month or generally for the last few months. What themes are coming up personally for that person? Because if you kind of know your themes, and then the astrological things start to come up, different stars and things, and whatever the planets are doing at the time, especially eclipses, because eclipses, the energy will last for 6 months to a year. So if you don't start paying attention to the themes that eclipse is bringing up for you, you'll probably be working on it for a while, and it's not going to be the easiest thing. So so it's easier if you can kind of get a sense of kind of just taking time to kind of witness what are the themes coming up, or just ask, what are the things I'm noticing, I'm dealing with? And they may be things you've been dealing with for years, but it might be coming up even more so kind of right in your face, or situations and people and whatever the stuff is that's bringing it up for you to pay attention. And also a lunar eclipse will bring up themes from the inside out, emotionally and your feeling level, to help you to see what you need to work with. And the solar eclipses are more from your outer environment and your environment in your day-to-day existence, but also the greater environment in the world, how that's affecting you and making you think about things or feel about things, or sometimes, unfortunately, being overwhelmed by certain things. But and this energy that's coming in with the Aquarian energy more fully now, that's going to be very electrical energy. Uranus is electrical. It's a lot of energy. So we're going into all this 5G energy and all the technology, and it's helping us to communicate on many levels, across the board to people all over the world. But at the same time, our physical bodies are still trying to adjust to the energies even coming through from the higher dimensions. So it's going to be a lot of energy. So I think it's important to spend a lot of time in nature, and as much as you can, and but also to kind of work with these energies and know that it's part of us. We're still electrical and magnetic energy to begin with, so we just have to stay balanced in how we take care of our own systems. It's like anything, like an instrument. If you're playing violin or something, you make sure to take care of the instrument, and then it doesn't play itself. You play through it with the energy that comes through. So we are the instruments that we have to maintain, and the higher the frequency, the more maintenance we're going to need, because we're more sensitive, and people are getting really sensitive to energy, and they're also tapping into the collective energy of sadness, survival, illusion, all these things. So it's important to just like when you get up in the morning, and maybe later before you go to sleep, and to say anything that I've taken on from anyone else or the collective that's not mine, I let it go, or ask the universe to take it from me, or God, whatever works for you. So these are just things to just stay focused and staying present. And also part of this is about realizing to come into a higher level of consciousness is a big responsibility involved, the ability to respond to the higher choices that you made to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's also accepting that higher conscious choice you made with your councils of light before you came in, which you can also connect to your councils of light still. They're there for you to talk, to connect with them on a telepathic level. That, to accept that was a good, right, and safe choice. It wasn't just something haphazard. And that if you can accept that, then you can accept your own choices that you make for yourself in the highest truth for yourself. By accepting the original higher choice, conscious choice of those, you can accept that within yourself, and then you can, move forward with your own choices, because so many people live to be what other people expect them to be. And a lot of that comes from karma of having to be that for other people, whether they were slaves or servants or just chopped, cut off from expressing themselves, things of that nature.
Wow. Cool. That is all the questions that I had. So let me ask you this. If there was one large thought, or if there's a message that you could leave to people, what would that be?
My father used to say, "This too shall pass."
That's a good one.
Sorry, Serota.
Elaborate a little more.
That's what I say to myself to remember when my dad's not here anymore, but I hear him saying that to me. Or it's only temporary. That's the other thing he used to say. I just feel like do the best you can. Try to do the best you can to really hold your heart open. I believe that the key to everything is the open heart. And I was just listening to something yesterday. I think it was a priest or something in a movie or something. And he was saying there's only one valve, it's either open or it's closed. And there are levels of this we tend to think we're feeling, but you're either open or you're not. And love is the key, love is the answer. That's the key to everything and to the connection. A lot of people don't know how to feel connected to everything. So, but everybody's so protective that even you hear a loud noise, we automatically kind of close like this. So the key really is to really keep an open heart as best you can, especially for yourself. First for yourself before, anyone else even, because the more you love yourself, the more you feel safe, comfortable, supported, nurtured. It's like a baby. If you hold a baby and keep giving it pure love and encourage it and nurture it to be everything that it is, then it will grow up feeling that it's safe and it can be everything that it is and be accepted and expressive. So we almost have to give this back to ourselves, give us back the love that we may not have fully felt we had received or gotten. And it may not feel easy, but it's a start to just allow yourself to sort of surrender to the truth that we were all loved, and lovable.
Beautiful. Beautiful.